Welcome to the Write, Publish, Market podcast. If you're a business owner thinking a book would be a great marketing asset for your business, you're in the right place. Maybe you've already committed, even better. I'm your host, Jodi Brandon, book publishing strategist and partner for business owners, CEOs, and entrepreneurs, and 20-plus year veteran of the book publishing industry. On the Write, Publish, Market podcast, in addition to learning from me and other industry experts, you'll hear from other business owners about their experiences as we explore all facets of writing, publishing, and marketing a book that will help your business grow in ways you might not even be dreaming of yet. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome back, business owners. Today, we're talking about the messy middle of book writing. And this is something we've talked about before on this podcast, but sort of the tactical piece of it. And today I want to talk more about sort of the mental aspect of it. Sustaining the motivation to write a book, let alone publish it and then market it and use it in your business long term. It's a big deal. And it's something that not a lot of people are talking about. And it's something that I and many other book coaches out there and strategists and book publishing professionals are working with their clients on, because there are these dips in motivation that happen. So first and foremost, know this. This is completely natural. It's quote unquote normal. It's typical. And also, you should expect for this to happen. It would be almost impossible for you to maintain that level of excitement and motivation you have at the very beginning throughout an entire book writing and production process. It can be a long time. So, there's going to be dips in motivation. So be ready for them mentally so that you can kind of work through them and get back to being productive and staying on track and all of those things. It's natural at the beginning when, everything's shiny and new and fun in the beginning. But the hardest part of book writing is not starting. It really isn't. It's continuing once that excitement sort of disappears or dips. So you want to figure out how this is going to look for you. Are there patterns that you can recognize that you can sort of work through, and keep yourself as motivated as you can to keep your eye on the prize to get to the end of the process. So it's sort of a predictable, arc, if you will, right? There's this excitement at the very beginning, and then maybe you meet a bout of writer's block. Maybe you fall off of your writing schedule for 1 week. Whatever happens in that first time that causes some sort of resistance to getting back on track, to sitting back down at the computer, to get back to your voice memo, whatever it is. Once that sets in, though, then doubt can creep in. And any of those fears, we've talked about this before on this podcast, and lots of people talk about these fears, fear of rejection, fear of making any money from the book, imposter syndrome, all of those things, all of those fears that are, again, perfectly natural and normal, but, easy for me to say, right? But once those set in, you have to sort of do a hard reset to regroup and then, get back to that excitement, which then maybe you'll get back to resistance again. Maybe you'll work through that to some doubt, and maybe you'll work through that doubt again. This can happen multiple times throughout the process. And again, perfectly natural if it does. So what I don't want you to do is confuse the messy middle, as I like to call it, with a signal that you should stop, as a signal that this is not a good project for you, that this is not the right fit for you, that this is, a waste of time and effort and mental energy and money and all of that. That's not the case. That's almost always not the case. But you have to be prepared for these sort of, ebbs and flows and motivation so that you can stay on track for just like any long-term project in our business, right? If you've developed a course and then launched it, probably a similar thing. If you have developed a signature, framework, same kind of thing. Any sort of long-term project that we do in our business is we're capable of having this same sort of ebb and flow in motivation that makes it hard to sustain our effort over the long term. So a couple of the reasons that this happens, just because, again, this is something that's part of my day-to-day, working with business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs, writing books. A lot of it is that progress feels invisible, right? When you're in the throes of the writing phase, especially when you've got tens of thousands of words to go, oh, great, I wrote, 5,000 words this week. I still have, tens of thousands to go. So that monumental progress sometimes it's hard to see when you're looking at the micro level. You've got to take that step back. Another thing is, I'm a huge proponent of self-publishing. You know that if you've listened to this podcast or talked to me one-on-one, but a lot of times there isn't an external deadline in that case. So you're driving the bus, you're setting the schedule. There's not necessarily an external deadline for you to reach toward, which makes it easy for this project to be the one that sort of, falls to the back burner. That happens a lot. That happens a lot to business owners, especially because another of the reasons is you have all of these competing demands on your time, right? So you've got other priorities in your business, let alone your life, but in your business, you have these other priorities. A book is not bringing in income while you're working on it usually. So if it's not a revenue producing activity right now, and it's not, it's so easy to deprioritize it. It's so easy to move something else above it on the to-do list. It's so easy to push back a schedule for book writing and book production and focus on something else. Again, back to that new and shiny and fun, right? So this happens naturally. This happens to the best of us. But what you can do is figure out what this pattern looks like for you and what makes the most sense for you to get out of it. Is it structure? Is it looking at your schedule again and recommitting to the project? Is it support and accountability like someone like me or another book coach could provide, or a group program, maybe something like that? Or is it just you've sort of gotten away from what your goal is and you need to sort of revisit and reaffirm your clarity? What is it that you want this book to do for you, your business? How does the book fit in? How is all of this time you're spending really helping, in effort to meet those goals and so that your book does what you want it to do? So a lot of times it's just sort of getting back to that clarity, going back to those foundational pieces of, why you're doing this, who's it for, your goals, your readers' goals, all of that, kind of recommitting to all of that, and then figuring out, is the structure, is the schedule that I've created, is this still working? Do I need to tweak this? Hey there, business owner and aspiring or published author. Sorry to interrupt this episode. Just wanted to check in and see if you're subscribed to Coffee and Commas, my email newsletter, where I share behind the scenes, industry info, and much more about writing, publishing, and marketing a book for your business. Sign up at bit.ly/coffee and commas sign up. That's all lowercase. Now back to the show. This is something that comes up so often, honestly, that even I've been doing this for a long, long time. I've been working with authors for a long, long time. But just in the last couple years, I have sort of revamped my signature offer is a book planning intensive, which is it's a half-day VIP style. I used to only do it at the beginning of the process for somebody who had an idea, maybe did a brain dump and had a table of contents. But more and more people are meeting this resistance in the middle of the project that I've sort of revamped what that offer looks like so that people can come in at that point if they want. And the back end support lasts longer now if you need to revisit that schedule, those sorts of things, because not only is it typical, but it's typical for it to be happening multiple times throughout a book journey, just because of the length of this project, right? You're not writing a book in a weekend. You're not writing a book in a week. You're not writing a book probably even in a month. So you've got to really figure out all of those, ideas that you have at the beginning, the schedule that you create, all of that, fantastic. But if you're not coming to that schedule creation with data behind it, a lot of times that schedule needs to be tweaked. I'm going to link in the show notes. I have a free challenge, the Ready, Set, Write challenge, that follows your writing as you build a writing habit. And I love for people to do this before they start book writing because it gives you all of this data that informs the creation of your writing schedule and your production schedule. Because it might sound great to you to have your book drafted in 2 months, but if you can only commit to writing 3 times a week and it turns out your best writing session is, 1,500 words, 2,000 words, you're probably not going to get that book done in 2 months. So your schedule needs to look different than that. A realistic schedule is much more important than a quick schedule. So having data to inform that schedule is very helpful early on. And then maybe you won't have to tweak it quite so much. Now, listen, life happens to everybody, right? Business happens. The world happens. All sorts of things impact our motivation, our effort, our schedules. So we just need to be aware of all of that so that we can kind of get ourselves back on track. One of the biggest factors that I see where I see the light bulb go off in coaching sessions is when we talk about the hidden cost of not getting back on track. Maybe your ideal client you have, maybe you're taking so long, they're going elsewhere to find the information and the knowledge and the resources that they need, whereas your book would have been the perfect thing for them. The authority building takes longer, credibility building takes longer. These invisible ROI that we talk about a lot in these parts here at Jodi Brandon Editorial, those sorts of things really do make an impact. And it's simple to keep those in mind. It's not hard to keep those things in mind as you feel yourself drifting, as you feel your motivation, ebbing maybe, or dipping down, to sort of get yourself back on track. Figure out what you need to get back on track. Can you do it on your own? Can you work a plan? Do you need structure and accountability around that? If so, find that. Reach out, find someone, Most of us in the industry have a free discovery call of some kind so that you can figure out a good fit for you and what you specifically need to get yourself back on track. But if you remember one thing from this episode, please remember this, that these dips in motivation are completely natural and normal, and they happen to every single one of us. So this is not a case of, oh my gosh, this is the wrong project for me. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to write this book. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't be doing this. Absolutely not. It is not that. Just give yourself a minute, regroup, get yourself back on track, and be ready in case it happens again. And you might have to go through that cycle, the excitement and fun and shiny new object to some sort of resistance, leading to some sort of, self-doubt, getting yourself, regrouping and getting back on track. That could happen multiple times. And that's totally fine. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get where you're supposed to go. It just might not look like you originally thought it was going to look. But it's so easy to get back on track with or without help. And then to get that book written, get that book published, get that book marketed so that that book is doing for you and your business what you want it to do. So until next time, friends, keep an eye on that motivation. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Write, Publish, Market podcast. I know just how busy business owners and CEOs' schedules are, and I'm grateful you've taken some time out of yours to spend with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, take a quick screenshot and share it on social to let others know you're listening. Use the hashtag Write, Publish, Market to spread the love.